Salvete discipuli, present active participles. So look at your objectives. We've got, I can recognize PAPs, present active participles. I can form them, I can decline them. Those are all at that 2 level. Remember, we want to always go for 3. I can translate them in sentences, and 4 is just complete, amazing master skill level. I can translate them into Latin with the correct form for a sentence. So let's go forward and let's look at some of these. Definition. Participle is that form of the verb which is used like an adjective. So again, these are going to be like adjectives. We've talked a lot lately about things that function as adjectives. It's the superlative and comparative forms that are adjectives. Demonstrative adjectives, hic and ille. Now we are going to find out about participles that also function like adjectives. Since they're a verb, though, they're going to have a tense and a voice. So what this means is we're learning about the present active ones today. Don't worry yet about the difference between active and the other voice, which is passive. We'll talk about that soon. Also, this is unique. They can take, for an adjective, they can also take a direct object, an indirect object, etc. So we'll see what that looks like here shortly. Since they're an adjective, though, just like all other adjectives, they'll be with a noun, they'll be describing or modifying a noun, and they have to agree with the noun that they're talking about in case, number, and gender. They cannot be the main verb in the sentence, meaning you can't just have a participle and have an actual sentence. It doesn't work like that. You actually have to have a normal verb. So let's look at the formation of these participles. I'm going to show you the formation of the ones that you will be learning this year and the 4 that Latin actually has. However, we're only really focused here. If you wanted to write this chart down right now, that'd be great. You're going to be learning them all, but this is the one that you need to know. So the present participle is the second principal part. So it's the infinitive, right? Minus the RE, so we're chopping off the RE. I know that's surprising. And then we're adding NS or NTIS. It's translated as whatever-ing. So loving, running, jumping, cursing, punching, whatever it is. Latin also has a perfect passive participle. This is actually the 4th principal part of the verb. That'll be the next one we talk about. And they have future active and future passive. And we will discuss those, but in the future. So let's talk about the present ones. Present active participles are declined like 3rd declension adjectives. The others use 1st and 2nd endings, but this present active is going to have 3rd declension endings, just like our comparative adjectives did. Let's look at what one of them would look like. So remember, it's the 2nd principal part, or the infinitive. We've dropped the RE, and then we've added NS and NTIS. So the NS just makes it the nominative singular, okay? Like other 3rd declension adjectives, the nominative singular is the word in that chart. And that's really all it's good for, is to be word. After that, we need this 2nd part, which is forming the genitive as the stem. Notice it's servantis, servanti, servantem, right? We've added that T into the stem. These are the masculine and feminine forms of the adjective. I'll show you the neuter forms momentarily. And keep in mind that you're always going to that genitive to get your stem, or you won't have the right one. So this is what the neuter looks like. And we're still doing the same process. We're still going to the infinitive, dropping the RE, and adding NS for the nominative, and then NTIS to create the genitive, so we can have that stem with the T in it throughout. Note that this is using 3rd declension adjective endings. We have an IA an IUM, and an IA. As such, you could possibly see an I here as well. Even the adjectives tend to switch back and forth between E's and I's, so it's possible to be both. And keep in mind, you're always going to that genitive. So, side note, if you have a third IO or a fourth, then I want you to think of chopping off the whole infinitive ending. So get rid of the ERE or the IRE. This is only for third IO and fourth. So that means verbs like winio, winire, right, fourth, or copio, capere, third IO. Verbs that have that IO in the first part, you want to drop the whole thing. And then you're going to add an IE. And then you'll have your endings. Let's look at a couple of exempla. Grumio amons ancillam suaviter, contat. So grumio is the subject of the sentence, right? You notice that ancillam has a direct object ending, but he's not singing the girl, and this is set off. So how would I translate this? Well, this, with the ns, I notice is a present active participle. So I'm going to look at it, and its case is nominative, and it's singular, and it's either masculine or feminine. But that means it's describing the subject. So Grumio, loving the slave girl, notice that the participle is taking the slave girl as a direct object. Or so Grumio, loving the slave girl, sings cantat suaviter, sweetly. So there's a case of the present active participle taking a direct object. Ancilla Grumionem cantantem carmen audit. So in Ancilla Grumionem cantantem carmen audit, we see that the ancilla has now become the nominative, that A, she is our subject. Grumio is some form of a direct object. And cantantem, what is this? Well, I see that nt, so I know that it's a present active participle. So every time you see that nt, your mind should immediately think, wow, that's a present active participle. And you're always going to translate these with an ing in English. So in this case, it's singing. In our first example, it was loving. Just like with comparatives and superlatives, where IOR with a comparative was equal to an ER in English, or that ISM was equal to an EST in English with superlatives, right? For present active participles, this NS or this NT are equal to this ING. That should always be your clue for translation. So I need to translate cantantem as singing. Carmen is the word song. And it's either the subject, it's either nominative or accusative because it's neuter, so the form's the same. But our verbs telling us we only have one subject, and it's audit, it's here. So clearly it's the slave girl. So the slave girl hears, who does she hear? Grumio singing a song. So here's another case of the present active participle taking a direct object, right? And who's doing the singing? Well, Grumio is doing the singing. And since Grumio is being heard and he's accusative, then that's why we also have this as the accusative singular. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. First, the present active participle is formed from the second principal part of the verb, or the infinitive. You drop the RE, and you're adding NS for the nominative forms, masculine, feminine, and neuter, and NTIS to get your stem for the genitive. It takes third declension endings. So when you decline it, it's always going to be third declension, whether it's the masculine, feminine chart or the neuter chart. Third, when you see that NS or NT with a verb stem, you should immediately think verbing or exing, whatever the verb is, and then ing with it. 4, since they function as adjectives, they're going to be paired with a noun. So there has to be a noun that they're describing. And that means that they have to agree in case, number, and gender with that noun. But since they are a verb form or formed from a verb as a participle, that means they could also take a direct object or even possibly an indirect object. Walete discipuli.